Before we get started, you should know that I am predisposed to appreciate this device.
For one thing, there's the name. I still remember when Steve Jobs pulled the first MacBook Air out of its manila envelope at MacWorld 2008, and I was so taken with it that it became my first ever Apple computer. Of course, all my friends in the Windows world I was leaving called me crazy. It didn't have the ports, it didn't have the power. Was I really that in love with a thin form factor? And today, the same questions dot the discourse around the new iPhone Air. The base model's a better deal. The Pro models have bigger batteries and sharper cameras. All true. But after a week using the Air in the real world, only one compromise bugs me enough to push me to go Pro. And it might not be the one you think. Battery. That's the one I think you think, and that's what I was most afraid of when I kicked off 8 days with the Air, and Apple's inclusion of a MagSafe power bank made just for this phone only compounded that concern. I was around for the Motorola Moto Z a decade ago, which was actually slightly thinner than this phone, and that device definitely needed its own magnetic power pack option if you wanted to get any decent runtime out of it. Not so with the iPhone Air. On day one, a travel day that started with an Uber to SJC and ended with an Uber from LGA, with a continent worth of doom scrolling in between, I logged 7.5 hours of almost continuous usage. But that was mostly on Wi-Fi, with the brightness turned way down. So I pressed it over the weekend, logging a day of extended walking around NYC with hours of podcast streaming to the new AirPods, heavy messaging at full brightness, and a bunch of camera samples I'll share in a sec. And after 8 hours, I still had more than 30% left in the tank. Again, with no MagSafe battery needed. So then I just decided to abuse it the next day, downloading game assets for Delta Force and playing a few rounds of Metal Storm, before taking some ferry rides with the Air's mobile hotspot providing a connection to my MacBook Air. And while the phone does warm up quite a bit under load, that A19 Pro hangs in there, and the phone still got me, just barely, to 10 p.m. Now look, it's still a smaller power reserve than usual in this thin chassis, and it's still not the fastest charging phone you can buy, so I'd still buy the MagSafe battery as a security blanket. But unless you're trying to kill this thing before sundown, it'll probably surprise you with its hang time. Another concern you might have on a 5.6mm phone is durability. But Apple seems extraordinarily committed to avoiding another quality scandal like the one that rocked it with the iPhone 6's Bendgate. While the other iPhone models this year switched back to aluminum, the Air's frame remains titanium, sandwiched between two layers of rigid ceramic shield glass, and I got to experience a test of that frame firsthand in Cupertino.
I was handed a testing device, which is like a metal brick with sensors in it to measure bending force, and I was told to bend it as hard as I could. I managed about 103 pounds, something like that. I heard that Annabong from Board at Work could only manage like 70 or something, so appearances can be deceiving, I guess. Anyway,
I watched a machine like this one apply the same bending force to an iPhone Air, but more of it, up to about 132 pounds, as I recall. I watched as the phone bent dramatically, but as soon as the pressure eased up, the enclosure popped back into place, and the phone was perfectly flat again. It was seriously impressive. You'd think you'd want a phone like that to come in at least one standout color, but no. You get a black option and then basically 3 shades of barely differentiated white. But I don't mind as much with this one as I normally would, because from some angles the material actually does seem nearly translucent, like aerogel, which of course reinforces the thin and light feeling Apple's going for here. When you combine the thin build with the fairly low mass and the fairly large display size, you end up with the same perceptual deception that I pointed out in my Galaxy S25 Edge review, a phone that feels like it simultaneously has a bigger screen and a smaller footprint than it really does. It's neat. But impressive though it is, the iPhone Air does pack two letdowns that its Samsung competitor avoided. The first is a lack of stereo speakers.
Whether it's a FaceTime, a phone call, or an Instagram reel, I find this single speaker tinny, hollow, and too sharp. For context, this is what it sounds like on the iPhone 17 Pro Max.
While that can be soothed by the use of AirPods, the other omission isn't as easy to ameliorate. An ultra-wide camera is one of those things that you just can't replace with almost any other piece of hardware. You may not need it often, but there are those times when you're trying to photograph, say, the Titanic's intended arrival pier in New York City, and you can't physically back up enough to get the shot without getting run over on the West Side Highway. Those are the times you're grateful for a wide field of view, like you get on almost every other smartphone. And it's the number one thing I've missed on the iPhone Air. The camera does fine, from the city in the light of day, to repurposed light ships and Oktoberfests at sunset, to tributes in light after dark. The kind of simple, quick captures the target customer is likely to be doing. Those little slices of life are well served by these 48 megapixels. Pull up any other iPhone model alongside, though, and you'll see what you're missing. Whether that's ultra-wide or telephoto push, even a little more field of view from the main shooters on the Pros.
Oh, you got yours already?
Dude,
Wait till next week. How do you like it?
they're, I don't know yet.
I heard it was a blast.
So, no surprise, if you're a shutterbug, you probably want more versatility than the Air can offer, and so you're probably not even shopping it anyway. Nevertheless, I will share a few more samples while noting something else interesting. While you do get camera control on this hardware, its touch features are disabled by default out of the box. I turned them back on, but then I remembered how much of a pain camera control can be if you accidentally trigger it when you're framing a shot, which happens to me often. So yeah, maybe leaving it in dumb button mode is the move after all.
Also a good move, the new center stage selfie shooter. You've seen the results of the stabilization it offers in every host segment of this video. And the real world, something, I don't know. Do you know?
Excellent.
Yeah, didn't I? I was halfway good. What was I gonna say? Oh, the dynamically shifting framing. That's what we're gonna do next. Let's do some dynamically shifting framing.
Ready.
I'm close to wrapping up here, but on the way out, a quick note on iOS 26 from the perspective of an Android user. No, this isn't about the liquid glass controversy. I think it's mostly fine. In fact, iOS feels almost as customizable as Android these days. And I like that I can still replace many of the default Apple utilities with their Google equivalents. As a green bubble, there's a certain envy that creeps in when I see Apple-exclusive apps like Flighty or the not boring software suite. But I'm here to tell you that the iOS ecosystem has its own drawbacks. There's the split notification and control center dynamic that Android OEMs keep copying, and it's an ergonomic nightmare forcing you up to these corners all the time. If you're trying to listen to a voice message on Instagram, you need to leave the app in focus to get it to keep playing, unlike on Android. Voice dictation on the iOS keyboard is so inferior to Gboard, I've basically sworn it off at this point. And just look at the cursed home screen behavior when I try something as simple as moving an app into a folder. Yeah, man, what's happening? None of this is to say the iPhone isn't great. It is. And it has a more cohesive and polished ecosystem than any Android manufacturer currently offers. I'm just saying the grass isn't always greener everywhere. All phones have problems in our increasingly complex world. I'll have more to say about iOS when I cover the iPhone 17 Pro in another video, and I've seen a lot of enthusiasm for the base iPhone 17 as well, which delivers an awful lot of value at its entry price of $799. But more than either of those, I'm just excited about the Air. And if you want to point out that I didn't get nearly as jazzed about the Galaxy S25 Edge, you're right. And I think that's because of something I pointed out in that video. In the Android world, we have big foldables, we have small foldables, we have weird phones. But over in the iPhone world, the Air adds a dash of needed novelty to a lineup that was feeling pretty stale, at least to me. And, maybe more importantly, it doesn't make as many compromises as I expected it would, for a price that's at least in the same ballpark as the forgettable iPhone Plus it's replacing. The iPhone Air is a phone for the kind of person I once was, and maybe still am. Someone who wants something special, even if it means making some small sacrifices. And if you want to keep it looking special without breaking out the wharf sash,
I am decorated as well.
risk a click to the sponsor in my description. D-Brand offers screen protectors that are easy to slap on, skins to keep the phone svelte while adding personality its paint job lacks, and if you're tired of folks offering the thinnest case for the thinnest phone, there's Tank, a brutalist tactical aesthetic for a beautiful, tender Air. Juxtaposition. That's the name of the game at D-Brand. Hit the link down below. This review was produced following 8 days with an iPhone Air review sample provided by Apple, but as with every Mr. Mobile review, the manufacturer had no copy approval or editorial input into this content. The lone sponsor is D-Brand. Subscribe so you don't miss my iPhone 17 Pro review and a more ambitious look at the new Apple Watch than I've ever done. In the meantime, you can find me on Threads at Captain2Phones. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.